The question I want to answer today is, how did I get back into debt in my 40s? Let's talk about it. So, as many of you may or may not know, I am self employed, and over the last 6+ years, it will be 7 years of me being self employed, January 2025. I spent a lot of my time just fully immersed in my business and my work, and never really took the time to stop and question or challenge, what am I doing? The work that I do in my business is a service based business for real estate professionals, realtors specifically. I am a transaction coordinator. And it was an easy transition simply because I'd been doing that in my 9 to 5. So the only difference was I didn't have to show up to an office, I could work from home. And all of my clients were, we worked on a contract basis. So being self-employed, I processed the files, got paid, processed the files, get paid. And my first year, I processed a lot of files. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you the number, but within those first 2 years, I made a lot of money. Um, but on the plus side, so a few pluses. I made a lot of money. I was able to save a lot of money because I was sober that first year in 2018. So I didn't go out a majority of the year, but when I did travel or go out, I was sober. I really just spent the time at home uh, with my grandma. And I'm so grateful I did, because that was the main reason and the main push I quit my job in the first place, was to help take care of her in her last days. So hashtag no regrets. But in that time of caretaking, learning how to run a business, because I'd never run a business before on my own, I made a lot of mistakes. The mistakes I made were never really getting an employee, never getting help. I had taken on so much business to the point where I burnt out. And after my grandma passed away, it really forced me to reevaluate, what the hell am I doing this all for? None of this matters. My clients suck. I can't even tell them that I'm going through this process of grieving, because they don't care. They really don't care. And I ended up just sticking to business as usual. At one point, before my grandma passed away, I reached out to the manager and said, "Hey, I have too much on my plate. Can you take some of it off of my plate?" And I think that was one of the first mistakes I made. But looking back at it now, no regrets. I probably should have hired help at that point versus just letting it go. But my mind was so crowded and clouded, and I went from a 9 to 5 to being self-employed overnight. Like, I had no break. Like, my last day was March 30th or 31st, and my first day self-employed was April 1st. No joke. I was like, by my birthday month, I want to be self-employed. So fast forward, I relinquished a bunch of my business. So now I'm making less, but I'm still keeping my expenses low, which is fine. Um, and then my grandma in 2019 passes away. So now I have been self employed for 1 year. And as many of you know, funerals are very expensive. And I put up voluntarily. I wasn't forced, I wasn't obligated. No one asked me to do this. I paid for a good chunk of the funeral with my money. And after she passed away, like I said, I was starting to really question, like, what does this all mean? What is this for? The one person I trusted with my heart and my love is gone. How do I navigate this world? So I did what I knew, as I just went back to work and I partied a lot. And then the following year, we're in a pandemic. So now I'm not just stuck with work and my thoughts, but now I have the freedom to do whatever I want. A lot of my time that I spent taking care of her was now free. And because we're stuck in the house, I wasn't learning. I was just drinking. So that was another mistake I made. And I wasn't mindful of my money. I wasn't really learning new skills. I was just excited that all of my friends now get to work from home, because for the first 2 years of being self employed, that wasn't even a concept. And I just looked at it as a giant party for a whole year. I was on unemployment because everyone's business had tanked at that point. There was no business. Real estate was just on a standstill. And I never stopped to look at my money. I never stopped to invest my money. I never stopped to really do well with my money. You know, I never bought assets. I never nothing like that. So in my mind, I was like, well, I was in survival mode, and I was grieving. And the other part of it is I refused to acknowledge that I was grieving, hence the heavy drinking. But it wasn't until about mid 2021 into 22 where I really started to get my act together, um, and realize that the business that I was running no longer resonated with me. But how was I going to get out of it? And I tried everything. I started a merch line. I cut clients out. Clients cut me. I took a business course, which was life changing. Look up Nicole Walters if you can. If you, I think she still does the 18K a day challenge, or 1K a day challenge, and that really opened up my mind and showed me how ill prepared I was to run my own business. And from then on, I ended up having, I was like, okay, we got the momentum back. I feel good. I'm going to move forward with my business. I'm going to take this YouTube thing seriously. And then an old root canal I got done maybe 10 plus years ago just died. My front tooth here. And that resulted in me getting a traumatic dental procedure. These are not my teeth. These are not my teeth. The front teeth are not my teeth. I had to get my actual teeth removed. And again, I go to the dentist with pain, and I never had teeth issues. Never. The root canal was a result of me getting into an incident and smashing my mouth on the concrete. Sorry, I should have said trigger warning. And I just lived with the chipped teeth. I didn't care. I just didn't care. But one day I'm ready to take on the world and run my business, and all of a sudden now I'm having to get my teeth done and spend thousands and thousands of dollars I did not have on my teeth. So I'm frantic. I'm still not as aware of my financial situation as I thought, because when I was like, I refuse to use my money to pay for this, but I also don't have debt and I don't want to get back into debt. So what do I do? And at this point, I still had my student loan. I wasn't really making as much money as I used to. I was just coasting. And then now this big financial burden hits me. I'm panicking. When I say my money traumas, my triggers were all activated and out of control, again, I just fell into this numb state of mind the whole entire summer, fall season of 2022. No, yeah, 2022. I'm trying to do the math. Because I was like, damn, now I'm in the hole, $8,000. What does this all mean? So then I was like, you know what? Oh, and then that same year, I signed up for a coaching course, another $7,000, because I was like, I'm going to be a life coach. This is my next career pivot. I'm set, I'm ready. And the facilitator, the owner of the coaching program, ended up, after I graduated, ended up in this scandal of sorts, regarding his practices as a monk. And people were saying he's fake. It's not real. He's scamming people into taking their coaching program. So I was just ashamed and torn. Like, do I even go public that I took his course, and now I have to get my teeth done. I can't go outside. I had all these plans. Again, God's plans are not your plans, and your plans are not God's plans. I had all these plans to be outside, to launch my coaching business. This is what was going to take over for the 99s and 2000s. And then once again, God is like, nope, you got to sit down. You got to sit this one out. So I didn't leave the house. I was embarrassed. My teeth were jacked up because they put temporary teeth. It was the worst experience of my life, honestly. Worse than losing loved ones, truly. Because at least I knew they were going to a safe, better place. I was on earth dealing with these awful dentists. And once they pulled my teeth out, I was like, there's no turning back. They screwed me over. But again, a conversation for another day. So now, if you're doing the math correctly, $16,000 in the hole. Student debt, another $8,000. So it's $24,000 in the hole. So where did the other, 16,000 come from? Well, since I was in a state of depression and grief, I wasn't really able to work as much as I wanted to. And because I hated my business and the people I was working with, I was barely closing transactions. I'd gotten down to 2 clients, 3. One was on and off, and just surviving off of my savings, credit cards that I'd applied for that year and thankfully got approved, because when I was getting the dental loan, they said, like, I was having trouble qualifying for a loan because I had no credit history. And mind you, I was trying to buy a house just a year before, and I didn't qualify because I didn't have the credit history. So I was worried that, damn, how am I going to pay for these teeth if I can't even qualify for a home loan? But those medical loans, again, a conversation for another day. Don't do them. Don't take them from the actual dentist. Like, bring financing in. Don't get it from them. It's a ripoff. But ultimately, that year I struggled with my business. This is now the top of 2023. And that entire year, just grieving. I did a lot of grieving. I did a lot of healing therapy for the first time ever. I really started to question my life in the sense of, like, what does all this really mean? And if I'm serious about YouTube or coaching or getting my life together, is this just talk, or am I actually going to take action? You're going to be 40 next year. So what are you doing? And I really took all of that into consideration. And through my grieving and healing, I made the decision. I was like, you know what? For the next year, I'm going to spend time appreciating the clients that I do have in my business. As much as I'm resenting it right now, I'm going to take the route of gratitude, meaning these 3 clients have been so loyal and faithful to me. I need to return the favor. I need to return the blessings and be loyal and faithful to them as well, because they're holding me down. I was making just enough to cover my bills and rely a little bit on my savings and credit cards to get through. In 2023, I only made $13,000. Compared to years in the past, I made sometimes 2-3 times that. So to see $13,000 at the end of the year was just jarring. It was jarring. So fast forward now into 2024, I was still on that mode of, like, I'm just going to retire. I'm going to coast, I'm going to live off of my savings. And it wasn't until I turned 40 and the month, like I did a 40 before 40 challenge that I made up myself. It was like a remix of 75 hard, but just not hard, and not for 75 days. But either way, again, I started to see the blind spots that were occurring. I started to realize, like, oh my God, I've been going through all of this without God. I don't have God in my life. So I was like, okay, what does all this mean? Where am I going? How am I going to make money? And I just spent the last 6 months just healing and becoming more self-aware of my money traumas, becoming more liable and accountable for my shortcomings and my responsibilities and the lack of discipline that I had in my life. So that was a hard pill to swallow. I'm actually still swallowing that pill right now as I speak, because I'm probably at the lowest financially I've ever been in the last decade. And it's important that I talk about this so I don't fall into another depression or get discouraged or just stop completely. Because if anything, I have to work 20 times as harder now than I ever did. And now that I'm here, it's go time. It's go time, baby. We're going to get this 40K paid one way or another. And I'll keep talking about this so I can free other people of the bondage that financial burdens have on them. And it's not the debt that we're trying to resolve, it's this and this. Making sure our heart and our minds are in alignment to face these battles, to overcome them, and allow God's love to lead us. And that's all I got. And I'll continue on in the next episode. But I hope for those that made it to the end of this video, that you like and subscribe. Please drop a comment so I know who you are, what you're going through, and how we can uplift and encourage each other along the way. So thank you for watching. It's your girl Lilz, and this is another episode of Lilz at Home and me talking about my debt-free journey. Let's go.